I don't like the look and feel of Google Calendar. I don't like Google Tasks at all, really. So I used Todoist in the past. I've used TickTick in the past. I'm currently using Morgen, but at the moment I'm exploring Akiflow. And what I want to do in this video is go through and show you my exploration process, I guess, of comparing the 4 apps in an Excel spreadsheet. So you can see here, I've got the device, I've got the phone and the computer because I obviously capture tasks and look at my calendar on my phone and my computer. All 4 of these apps work on both devices. I then have the name of the feature, which I'll go through. I'll probably just add them as I go through. And then I have numbers. And the way I think I'm going to do this is I'm just going to rate them roughly, subjectively, of course, on which one is better. So for example, if Todoist and TickTick were both basically the same, I'll give them a 1, then Akiflow may be a little bit worse, so 2, and then Morgen was just the worst at 3. Or maybe it's the other way around and Morgen was the best, Akiflow still number 2, but then TickTick 3 and then Todoist 4. That's how I think I'm going to rate each feature. And as you can see, the phone total then adds up basically all the numbers, gives it a 544, so the 4 would be the best and the 5 would be the worst for the phone. And if we do the same for the computer, 1332, you can see now the computer, this is the best, so Todoist is the best on the computer, but worst on the phone, just using example numbers. But then the total then adds those together, so we've got 667, so in this case it would be Morgen and Todoist. But let's actually have a look at the features to see what we're working with. Starting with the phone, the first thing I want to see is a widget. I want to be able to know what I'm doing today. So we've got the Todoist widget here, which is showing a list of tasks. When I push on the task, it opens up in a sort of window, and then I can do whatever it is that I want to do with the task. I can change the views, filter the views for today, tomorrow, etc. And I think pretty importantly, if I click on the tick, it actually ticks it off. If I go to TickTick, we've got the same sorts of things. Basically the same view, we can filter for all of the views available. If I tick something off in the view, it's then ticked. And if I push the plus, it then lets me add a new task. However, when I move over to Akiflow, you can see, well, it's showing me the day, but it's only showing the events on the day. When I click into the event, it takes me to my day. And there's the event, England ladies are playing football later. But it doesn't actually show me any of the tasks that I have. So if I go to the inbox, you can see I have 3 tasks, but it doesn't show me any of those in the widget. If I then schedule one of those tasks, so I've scheduled it on my computer, and now you can see I've got test task that's in 30 minutes starting at 2 o'clock. And when I go back to the widget, now I can see the test task. So this is an immediate difference between the widget view of a task manager, so Todoist or TickTick, and a planner app. I can have tasks inside of Akiflow, but it doesn't show on the widget unless it's been scheduled. Then inside of the widget, if I click on it, it lets me edit the task. And then if I tick on the task, it actually takes me to the app to edit it. I can't tick it from the widget. And Morgen is essentially the same. You can see I've got lots of tasks on Morgen because I use Morgen more than all the others, but the tasks only appear if they've been scheduled. And similar with Akiflow, if I go to tick off one of these tasks, so say I've done lunch, it actually takes me to Morgen. So when it comes to tasks, Todoist and TickTick are better as widgets, but when it comes to events, well, Todoist and TickTick doesn't show the events, so obviously the other 2 widgets would be better. That's for me at least. Now, if we go into the applications, we've got Todoist. Down the bottom, you've got the today view, inbox view, filtered views, which there are loads of filter views to go through all of those tasks, search, browse. So there's lots of options that you would normally see on the desktop app. But for me, when I'm on my phone, I want a quick add, which is obviously the plus button, quickly write something in, and in an ideal world, use natural language. So I've typed in tomorrow and it's going to be due tomorrow. I can then add in the priorities. So say 1 priority. I personally don't use priorities, but it's there. But the reminders are a pro feature. And because obviously Akiflow and Morgen have schedule dates and due dates in Todoist, it's just a due date. But let's add that in. So it's a quick task and then it goes straight to the next task. Once I've made the task, I can then go into the task and then add a subtask. So subtask, and then again, I can add a due date, let's say next week. add the priority, let's say priority 4, and then add that in. So you can add normal tasks and subtasks. The reminders are a pro feature. The locations are a pro feature. Description is fine, but it does what I want it to do. And when I actually add a task, I can add it as a recurring task as well. So let's just say lunch every day, save. As you can imagine, TickTick is basically the same view. You've got your inbox, you've got all of the different views, lists, folders, tags, filters, etc. So let's go to today view. There's the today task I need to do. I can click on the task. There are subtasks which you can add. The two different types of subtasks are a little bit confusing. I don't really understand why you'd want a subtask without information in. That just seems like something you'd put in the description, which is kind of what it is, but it doesn't add anything to it. So actual subtasks are more useful. So subtask date, let's put that in for tomorrow. You can see at the top there's a duration, so you can add a duration, but as you see, upgrade now. You need to pay for that feature. If we look at the reminders, you don't have to pay for reminders, but you do have to pay for constant reminders because it takes you to the upgrade to premium, and you can add repeated tasks. And as you can see, TickTick does have natural language dates, so you can type in tomorrow and then it'll be due tomorrow. When I move over to Akiflow, I have my Google Calendar and tasks that are showing. If I go to my calendar settings, I can show the weekends, hide the weekends. So I have a calendar view. I can show or hide tasks, show or hide done tasks, but mainly for me is I can show or hide any Google Calendar inside of my linked calendar account, which the task apps just can't do. That's the difference between Akiflow and Morgen and Todoist and TickTick, is the calendar integration on the mobile. Then looking at the screen, it can look a little bit cluttered. I don't like the fact that I just have this block at the top that's empty, and I can't find a way in settings to change that. And I'm also not a big fan of the test task, it not actually being tickable. I can't tick it from this view, I have to click it and then tick it. But as you can see, once I've ticked it, it's gone, so it's no longer showing in my schedule for today. In the left sidebar, you have those options, the same views as the other managers. So you've got your inbox, today, someday, all tasks, and then the list, so the hashtag list or the folders, including the tags or labels, depending on what the app wants to call it. All 3 apps have it so far. If I push the plus button, it gives me the option to add a task, an event, or a slot. You can see I can add a planned schedule date, so I can say today, so it's planned for today. I can say duration 20 minutes, thing to do, and then natural language. So if I put tomorrow, it then says tomorrow instead of today. I can then push the exclamation mark, add priority, let's say medium priority, and just add a quick test tag because I only have one, and done. If I push plus and then add an event, I can now add an event on my Google Calendar through Akiflow. As you can see, I can add a guest, I can add conferencing, so that's Zoom or Google Meets or anything like that. I can make an all-day event, I can make it a repeated event, and instead of going through the plus, I could click onto the schedule, and instead of going through the plus option, I could click onto the schedule and then adds in the time that I put my thumb, so that was 7 o'clock. So let's just say test event, save, and now test event has been saved in there, and if I go in, I can change it from my events calendar to any of my other calendars. So let's just say it's going to that calendar instead, save, and now it's changed it. And what Akiflow does, which is a little bit different from Morgen, is it has a slot. So if I add busy slot between 4:15 for 30 minutes, I can then save it. And what that's going to do, you can see at 4:15 is it's added a busy slot. So I'm going to add a task in that busy slot, and I know I have things to do there. Now, for me, I haven't found a use case for this because I'm just scheduling tasks, but this could be used as kind of like a sprint. So this is a busy slot sprint, and I'm going to do all of these different tasks. And you can add the task in a slot to a project. So let's add it to the SA project. Now, when I come out and I go into this side view, I can go to SA. You can see I've got task added inside of the SA project, which again, I haven't found a use case for, but it could be useful if you have lots of sprints and you just want to get loads of stuff done in one little section. And I don't see a way to do that inside of Todoist or TickTick because they don't have schedule apps and you can't block things together. It would just be a subtask. Now, Akiflow being a calendar app, there isn't just this view. You have the agenda view, much like Google Calendar, the 1-day view, which we were on, the 3-day view, which I always find this far too busy, even with Google Calendar, and the same with the week view. And when you go to the month view, it looks very much just like Google Calendar, which is what I have on my widget, and you can scroll to the side and see everything that's going on. And as you can see, it's pretty reactive with a search bar at the top. So let's say test, and now it's showing me all of the test events, test tasks that I've made in the process of exploring the Akiflow app. And for quick navigation, if I click on the month, it then gives me the drop down to skip to whatever day in the month. So let's go to the 31st of May, why not? Which if we go to the 3-day view, we can then go in and then go to a different 3 days. There's the 25th. So it's really easy to navigate between different days inside of the mobile app. When we hop over to Morgen, it looks obviously different because it's a different app. When you click on the month, we have the same options to go between the months. So that's the same. We've got the events, we've got the tasks. You can see there's those 2 slots I just made in Akiflow because they sync to my Google Calendar. It also syncs to Morgen. This is the single day calendar view. I can then go to the 3-day view, a work week, an agenda view, which gives you a little calendar at the top, which is quite nice. I personally don't use it. But as you can see, when I'm in the work week, I can scroll up and down, and this changes the resolution of the week. So if I'm all the way down the bottom, I can see basically the whole day without having to scroll up or down. Whereas I go all the way out, I now have a bigger resolution. So if I have lots of small 5-minute tasks, I can see those easier. So this adds a level of customization which Akiflow didn't have. But something else about Morgen is if you turn your phone sideways, it actually shows you the week view sideways, which I actually find really nice. Is a small like quirky feature that's just nice. I don't use it, but it's there. Now I'm in the day view, I'm actually going to reduce that resolution because I don't want to see all of that. And as you look down the bottom left, we've got the task view. So these are the task views. You can see we've got the integrations at the top, which I'll go through on the computer, but overday, today, upcoming, and then all of my lists. Now when I'm in the task view and I push the plus button, it adds a task. But when you're adding a task in Morgen, there's no natural language. You can see tomorrow, but it's not coming up with anything. So there's no natural language when adding tasks. Down the bottom, pushing on the calendar, you can add a due date. So let's say it's due today, and then add a priority, but that's essentially it apart from the notes. So let's save that test task, and that will have gone into my inbox. So at the top of my inbox, there's the test task, it's due, and now I can go in, you can see it's in the inbox, I can change the list, but now I can go in and add subtasks, which again, lets me add due dates, so let's just save that. But there's no way to schedule the task onto the calendar from the mobile. If we go back to Akiflow and click on the test things, you can see the plan button. Now I can plan and schedule it. Morgen doesn't let you do that. When we go back to the calendar view inside of Morgen and push the plus button, now we're adding an event, but we can change it to task at the top. So the plus button in the calendar view is more flexible than the task view. But you may notice there's no recurring option. You can't add recurring tasks or recurring events inside of Morgen Mobile app. But something I do like, which I'll go into more detail on when we get to the PC, is you can go to the scheduling links and copy the link to the scheduling link from the mobile app to whatever message you have. And because I use Morgen for my scheduling, this is really handy. And Akiflow does have that as well inside of availabilities. And obviously if I had an availability in Akiflow, it would be there. I haven't set one up yet, but TickTick and Todoist don't have these options at all. I have actually just moved Akiflow down a little bit because I don't think their task widget is as good as Morgen's, purely because I can't seem to work out how to hide completed tasks inside of the widget. You can see test task is there and I can't hide it. Whereas with Morgen, if a task is complete, it's gone. So you can see my lunch task is gone because obviously I've had lunch. If we take a look at where we stand, 1 being the best, 4 being the worst, you can see Akiflow all the way down has 24, which is number 1 for the phone total, then it's TickTick, then Todoist, then Morgen. But of course, if you're focused on tasks, then TickTick and Todoist have lots of greens, whereas Morgen and Akiflow lots of reds, and then they kind of swap when you get to the events and the scheduling. Now, this video was kindly sponsored by Akiflow. From an outsider looking in at Akiflow and all of the videos that I've seen on YouTube sponsored by Akiflow and people exploring Akiflow, I really wanted to get my hands and dig in and really see what the app could do. And that is what this opportunity has let me do. Explore the tool, and the combined tasks all into that one list is really nice. Something that I'm exploring even further now is the Gmail integration, being able to put Gmail tasks into my task calendar and scheduling them. That's really helpful. Now, of course, there are some things in other apps that I prefer and some things in Akiflow that I don't personally use, but the one-to-one onboarding call was a big surprise and really helpful just to speak with someone from Akiflow, to talk about the tool, talk about the features, and talk about what I could and couldn't do with the tool and their plans moving forwards with the roadmap, development, and it was just really nice to be able to speak to the team straight away. I was able to get some advice about how to use the tool, some of the features that may be overlooked inside of the tool, and also troubleshoot some of the problems that I had when starting to use the tool. And I think it's important at this point in the video to mention that not all of these tools are free. Obviously, I've mentioned Todoist and TickTick have premium offers, and Akiflow isn't a free tool, and Morgen does have a paid plan. My personal preference and recommendation is to use free tools first and only pay if you really need the paid features, and Akiflow has a 7-day free trial, so I would explore the free trial before actually committing to anything. That's my personal preference, and I would say the same with Morgen's free trial, or just free plan, Todoist, TickTick, the same sorts of things. But now let's have a look at the computer stuff. Now, heading over to the computer, this is where I spend most of my time, where I tick tasks off, where I check my calendar, so these are the features that I actually personally care about the most. And starting with Todoist, we've got the Todoist app. I'm not on the web browser because I prefer apps, but most of the features are in both anyway. In the left sidebar, you can see you can toggle it open and shut. We've got the inbox, today view, upcoming view, which is what we had on the phone. Then there are the filters and labels. Now, because I'm on the free plan, I'm actually limited. You can see there's 8 out of 3. I don't actually have access to all of these, but essentially it's filtering for priority or assigned to me, because you can assign other people tasks. And the filtering options get extremely advanced, but I personally am quite simple with my tasks. I just want it under a list and to to just show the task whether I need to do it or not. So I never found a use for the filters or labels in Todoist when I was using it. And that goes for the labels in Todoist. They're called labels. In other apps, they're called tags. They're essentially the same thing. All I need, just like a piece of paper, is a list of things I need to do today and just a simple grouping. So a project list is perfectly fine for me. Todoist on the free plan is limited to 5. And as you can see, you can have a list inside of a list. And when you're in a list as well, if you hover over, you can add sections. And if I add a video for today and now go into my today list, you can see video 4 and then today, because obviously it's in today, list 3, and then it's in the section that I've called section. So it's nice to sort of scope out larger projects, but I personally am not that granular with my tasks. When we go into a task, we can assign a person, so you can have multiple people. As I mentioned, you can share tasks in Todoist. There is the due date, which is when the task appears. So this is due today, so it's going to show today. If I say it's due tomorrow, then if I go to the today view, it's now disappeared because it's in the upcoming for tomorrow. So let's go to the edit view. You can see I still don't have access to reminders because I need to upgrade. But if I go into the task, I can also add comments. Again, because I'm working by myself, I don't need comments, but if you're working with other people, very useful. You can then add audio recordings, add attachments. The emojis isn't really that significant. You can do that on literally anything with a text editor. But the subtasks, when you add a subtask, can have subtasks. So when we go into the task, I can say subtask, and then when I go in there, I can keep going. Now, for me, this is redundant. This is far too granular for my task management. And when we come and have a look at the list, it's very, very small. Even with some of the larger projects that I've done, writing books and doing video projects, essays that have taken 2 or 3 months to do, I never go into this much detail. If we have a look at the views, you can see we've got the board view, which Kanban boards, if you use boards, great. These are the sections that you can have inside of those projects, those task lists. You can change the grouping orders, you can change the sorting. To me, this is trying to mimic the project management app features. So maybe that's the direction Todoist are heading, but then again, they do have this calendar view, which as you can see at the moment you have to pay for. So unlock calendar view by paying for whatever subscription it's going to be when you're watching the video. And this calendar view, from what I've seen, is just showing the tasks on the calendar, which is nice, but with it still being tested and heavily developed, I'm not confident in saying, yes, that's a great feature, or no, that's not. It's just an option that's available. So at the moment, I would view my task like this and just a list of tasks. And if I want to add a task, I can click up and add a task and it brings me up the window. Or I could use the hotkey Q to bring up the quick add. And if we go to the advanced settings, you can see quick add task. So when I go back to my Obsidian, now I can push Windows Alt Q and now I can add a task from here. And this is what I use most of the time when I'm adding a new task. But when I want to quickly show what I'm doing today, so when I want to quickly show my schedule, that's Window Alt S, and that would show my schedule up at the top and then come down. So I can quickly see my schedule, but it's a task list, and then I can quickly add as well through the global hotkey, which is really nice. Now, there are plenty of other hotkeys as well to navigate around Todoist, but if you want your events, you need to work with Google Calendar. Now, Todoist has loads of integrations. You can see Akiflow's there. I've actually integrated Morgen into Todoist as well. So you've got Morgen and Akiflow, both work with Todoist. And if I show you my integration settings here, you can see I've got a Todoist calendar, syncing all projects, syncing the inbox. You can change it to whatever project. And I have all the tasks removed from Google Calendar that are completed. So connect. But now when I have a look at my Google Calendar, you can see there's the Todoist task and it's just an event on my calendar. So it's not scheduled in the day and I can't tick it off from my Google Calendar. So it's just sort of a view. And when I come into Todoist, I can't see my events in Todoist either. So I have to go between the two apps. If I tick the video off and then go back to my Google Calendar, you can see it's gone. So let's hide a lot of those calendars. If I add a task, so that's a new task for today, you can see it's now in the all day tasks, but that's it. If I was to come down and try and drag it into schedule, I can't do anything with it. And this is my major irritation with Todoist is if I have events, so conferences, meetings, or anywhere I need to be, or in this case, just a reminder that England are playing, it either has to go in as a task, or if it is an actual event on my calendar, I need to go to Google Calendar, which I may be missing something here, but this doesn't show it to me. When we go over to Todoist, many of the same features are available. So we have the today list, we have the upcoming or the next 7 days list, we've got the inbox. When you go into the task, you can see or in the board view, I can come up, change the view to a list view, or I can change the view to a timeline view. But again, just like the calendar, the timeline calendar view are paid for, and these are tasks. They're not events, these are tasks. So if we go into whatever these tasks are, you can see we've got the due date. So I've got the date that the task is due. I've got the duration. Yeah, I know, it's this upgrade, pay, whatever. We then have time, reminder, repeat. So all of the stuff we had on the phone. We've then got the tags. We've got the lists. We've got a calendar view for the tasks. TickTick does have habit tracking, which, I mean, it's nice, but that's not what I'm using my task manager for personally, or managing my events or projects or anything like that. Pomodoro timer, I can just do that with a normal stopwatch or any sort of clock. So again, not specifically useful for me. If I'm writing somewhere else, I can use the global hotkey to add a task, and it uses natural language dates just like Todoist. I'm yet to find a global option to show TickTick, just globally, like use hotkey to show it. I've seen the desktop widgets, but I don't want to have to go to my desktop to then see the calendar or see the widget. I just want to be writing and then go, oh, I want to quickly check, use the hotkey, see it, and then hide it again. But when it comes to adding events, I haven't been able to check TickTick because I don't pay for TickTick, and I have to pay to add a calendar to TickTick. And when I go to subscribe TickTick to my calendar, so let's say the inbox, I can enable, copy it, and then add it into my Google Calendar. But again, it comes up as events in Google Calendar, not tasks. So I have the same issue with Todoist. And this is where we get onto the combined apps, the Akiflows and Morgens. Straight away inside of Akiflow, you can see I've got a calendar and I've got the tasks, and we've got the command bar as well at the top. So when I click on the command bar, there's all of the options that we'll be seeing in the adding of the tasks. So let's just say thing for today, and it's going to add a new task. So there we go, we've added the task. And when we go to the today view, it is there. And as you can see, as we hover over, there's loads of hotkeys and shortcuts to move around quickly. But I'm currently in my inbox, so it's showing me tasks that I don't have scheduled. And this is the difference between Akiflow and Todoist and TickTick, is there is a schedule and a due date. So you can plan it. Let's say plan it for today. It says it's going to take half an hour, time is 3:30, and now it will be scheduled. So you can see it's on my calendar, and then I can tick it to say that I've done it, and it will disappear from the calendar. But you'll notice this task up here has a date on it, and that's because when I click on the date, there is a due date or a deadline as well. Now, when I go to the upcoming view, you can see I've got tasks to do, I've got scheduled on the calendar, and then I've got done. So this thing for, let's say, action is currently planned in for Wednesday and doesn't have a deadline. So if I click on the flag and say, hey, this is due on Saturday, I now have a due date and a plan date, and that's going to show here. And on Wednesday is when it's planned for, so I can go to today and it's not showing anything. I then click on the arrow key, or actually click on the thing, and then it goes to tomorrow. So this is what I'm planning to do tomorrow. This is what I've planned to do. Or if I come up, I can click on there and say, you know what, actually I do want to do this today. So now it's planned for today. It's going to disappear off Wednesday and it's going to appear on today. Now, something that's quite nice is you can see there is a busy slot today. So I can click on busy slot, and now it's selected busy slot for when it's planned to be done, and it will automatically put that task in the busy slot that I've set out. So I could rename this busy slot to writing, and now we've got that thing for action here. We've got the thing for action. If I drag the thing for action in the busy slot, it's now in the busy slot. I can drag it back out, or I can plan it for this writing slot. So I know I have a writing slot. Oh, this is an action for writing. I'll put it in there. And this writing slot is really nice. You can see we can replan undone tasks. So maybe we've let's move the slot behind. Okay, we haven't done these tasks, replan them. And let's say we're going to plan them for later today. So you can see what it's done is it's added in that block for 2 tasks later today. There it is. It's scheduled on the calendar at 8 o'clock. So if we click there, there's those 2 tasks that it's planned to, or replanned for us to do. So I've dragged all those tasks out, and you'll see down the bottom, these are the planned tasks. So these are the tasks planned for today. Now, a limitation that I have seen is I can't drag it to 2 days. You can see I've got 48 hours in this task. It's duration for 2 days, but it doesn't show on those 2 days, only on the first day, which to me is a little bit misleading. Then something else is when I add a task to the calendar, it's always the task calendar. It's always on the same calendar. So when I go to the tasks settings, you can see lock by default, it goes to my blocked tasks Google Calendar. And what that means is if I click on the task, if I have it locked, it always goes to the blocked task calendar. So inside of my Google Calendar, you can see there's thing for action. That's the task that's been shown in my Google Calendar, but it's always the block calendar. I can't make it any other calendar. So for example, if this thing for action is in channel 1, it can be tagged channel 1, and then I add a task for a second channel. So let's say add and then channel 2. I can tag it with channel 2 and I can link it to the calendar. So lock in calendar. But now it's going to go to the same Google Calendar, which, as you can see, they're both in the blocked task calendar. And you may be asking, well, why is that an issue? Well, when I have lots of different calendars, if I want to hide a calendar, say I want to focus on calendar 1 or calendar 2 or channel 1 or channel 2, there's no easy way to show or hide what tasks I need to do for that project, that thing. I can click on the tag, go channel 1, and then I get a list of tasks, but I can't show that on the calendar very easily. And if I do want to show and hide some of these calendars, I have to do the same thing in Google Calendar. I have to come up to the top and then click on which calendars I want to show, which ones I don't. So if I'm planning things, I may want to see lots of things, and when I'm going through my day, I may not want to see as many things, or maybe that's the other way around. So for example, my block tasks, I have lots of different tasks on this calendar, so during my day I want to know what tasks I'm doing, and in Akiflow obviously these will be tasks, but as I'm doing those tasks, maybe I want to plan something out. I want to quickly get rid of this calendar. I have to come up, click, turn off all of these individual calendars, and then go to the month view to be able to see everything that I actually want to look at when I'm quickly having a look at, say, for example, my content calendar or my book planning calendar. And then once I've done that, I go back to a week view, so I push W on the keyboard, and now I've got to come back up and turn all those calendars back on. Something else you may notice is at the top, I have these events. Now, these are all-day tasks inside of Morgen, but in my Google Calendar, they're events, and these are the projects that I'm doing. That's how I keep track of what projects I'm doing. So I'm currently writing this, and I'm writing this, and I'm editing this, and I'm currently working on this video as well. I've got another video tomorrow, but I can't put them as tasks inside of Akiflow because the planned tasks come down to the bottom, and they can't spread over more than one day. So I have to have an all-day event in my calendar to show a project. I feel like TickTick's timeline view might be more useful for that, but then you don't get the events. So I sort of have a lose-lose situation. Neither of the apps do what I want. And then for some tasks, say I want to write something, I could have a writing slot and say I want to write here and then I want to write here. So I can right-click, duplicate, and then I drag it over to the next day. But I can't have a task that's in multiple sessions. So if I change the name of this task added to write script A and then say, okay, I want to plan this. Well, I know script A is going to take longer than a couple of hours. So I say writing slot, it goes into that slot. Great, but now there's no way for me to plan it for tomorrow because I can't have multiple sessions of a task. I would need to create the task multiple times because as soon as I've done it, the task is now done and it's gone, it's completed, but I haven't completed it. I completed it for that session, but I want to complete it again, so I need to make the task again. Having said that, there are team calendar views, so if you go to one of my team members, I can see what they're doing, what I'm doing, and compare whether they're busy or not, which is nice. There is also an all task view, so it shows all of the tasks from all of the integrations available. So if we go up, click on my face, go to the settings, click on integrations, there are lots. Obviously, we've got the Google Calendar in there. We can have Outlook Calendar, but we can also have Gmail, so we can bring in our emails as tasks. Notion for tasks, Asana for tasks, ClickUp, all of these different things, we can bring them in, which is really useful, and they will all be shown in that all task view. So now I've connected my Todoist. If I go back to the integrations, go back to Akiflow, you can see now I've got my Todoist tasks in my today view, inside the all tasks view, so I can see my Todoist tasks inside of Akiflow. So if we have a look at the new task Akiflow, it's now for planned Wednesday, and then it's due on Thursday, so that's the deadline Thursday. And if we go to Todoist, it's synced, so now the due date inside of Todoist is for tomorrow, so it's synced the planned date and the due date, but there's no deadline showing on Todoist, that's Akiflow specific. And you may notice the colors of the boxes. That's because it's brought over the priority from Todoist as well. So if we change the priority to medium, so add new task is now a medium priority. You can see the add new task is now a medium priority because it's got a yellow tick. For those looking to share availabilities, you can create schedule links. So we've got a single link, a recurring link. It gives you the option to copy the scheduled text. And when you go to the more settings, you can add different locations. So we've got Google Meet, we've got Zoom, in person, of course, and then various other scheduling options, which is really nice for those that do want to schedule things. And then Akiflow also gives you these rituals, these shutdown rituals, so things to do by the end of the day. So I'm going to go through and plan all the things that I need to do for tomorrow. So let's plan for tomorrow, so plan your day. And it goes through this for the shutdown and the startup of the day. Now, I'm personally not a fan, I just want to get started and go, but it does give you some sort of pointers and directions of where to go. And as you can see, because I've just done that ritual, most of those tasks have just been moved. But if we go into the new task Akiflow, there is also the option you can see up here, goal for the day. So if I push on that, that task has a highlight, so that is the main task to be done on that day, which is a nice added visual feature, which if I drag the task over to today, you can see there it is, and it's very obvious that, hey, this is the main task you want to get done. So I'm going to tick it off done. And it says, do you also want to complete this as completed in Todoist? And I'm going to say yes. Now, when it comes to Morgen, I've spoken about Morgen a lot in the past, and I'll link to a video up in the top right if you're interested to learn a bit more. But you can see there's the global hotkey, and I can see Morgen straight away. Push spacebar to close down the task sidebar, spacebar to open it. This is today. I'm on D for today. If I push W, it goes to the week. T for today, so I can go forwards with the arrow key, backwards, I can make it larger. You can save whatever view. There's the task I was referring to. There's the events. Here I have a task that's in an events calendar and a task that's in my task calendar. So the blue is the task calendar. If I double click, it's in my Google Calendar tasks calendar, but then it's in my educational science challenge list. So this is a task list, which could be a project or a label or a tag, however you want to use it. It's just a way of categorizing the tasks, really. Then we have the priority, we have the estimate time. There's the due date, which is the same as in Akiflow, and in Morgen we have the planned start and planned end. But if I go to the top, you can see we have calendar set. So we've got these numbers here next to each of these calendars. If I push 0 on my keyboard, it's going to show me all of the calendars. 1 then hides them, 2 then shows me a different one, 3 then shows me a different set, 4 shows me a different set, and this makes it easy to navigate between different tasks, events, and planning. So I can push 3 and M, now I'm looking at my planning month. If I go to D for the day and then 1, now I'm looking at what it is, if I push T for today, what it is that I'm meant to be doing today. If you remember when I added those tasks on my phone, you can see there's the tasks that I've added. They're in my inbox. The inbox list is down the bottom. If I click on the 3 dots, I can group by task list, by priority, no grouping. I could then organize those groups. I can hide or show different task lists inside of the sidebar. So I have all of these task lists hidden because I don't want to see them, but I'm showing the rest down here. So I can toggle them shut, toggle them open. So you have sidebar flexibility. I've actually done that one. But if I'm in the week view, I'm just going to unschedule this one and I want to plan out my week. What I'll do is I'll have a look at the top and say, okay, this is the project that I'm currently editing, and I can see it in the sidebar and I can see I've already got multiple sessions in the past, but I want to continue working. And I've got an estimate 2 hours. That's roughly how long I want to spend on that block of work. I can drag it into my calendar, and then I can drag it again into my calendar, and then I can drag it again into my calendar, and now I have multiple slots, so multiple sessions of the task, and this is what I do for all of these projects. This is a project I'm working on. You can see I've got multiple sessions. What's really nice is each of these tasks are unique. So if I come in and say, hey, you know what, I want this one to be me working on the thumbnail, I can save that, and now this is thumbnail on that project. So I can just rename the session rather than having to make a new task or new granular task. So instead of having to have a template of projects, research, record, edit, script, thumbnail, I just have one task, put it in whatever days, and then when I decide, I think I'll do the thumbnail that day, or I'm going to be scripting longer than I need to, then I can. And I'm not sure whether this is a fair point, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Obsidian has something called Morgen Assist, which you can see here. I've got my team in here. It gives me lots of things, but essentially workflows, I go to my workflow gallery. These are automations. So when I have an event, so when I schedule to go somewhere, it automatically adds travel time. So it will calculate the travel time via Google Maps and add the events in before and after wherever it is that I'm going, and it does that automatically. Calendar propagation, work calendar to a personal calendar, or personal to work. And there are loads of other workflows in here that is automated. If you have a look at my calendar yesterday, I wanted to go to Funabounds, it's a trampoline center, so I put that in my calendar and Morgen automatically added, hey, travel time, you need to account for this. And I don't think any of the other apps do that to my knowledge, at least. So looking at the final scores, these are both the same, except the one on the right is colorblind friendly. My dad's colorblind, so I figured I'd cater to him. So yeah, so we've got the phone scores, at the top, Akiflow first, then TickTick, Todoist, then Morgen. And then as I scroll down, you can pause the screen to see all of the different features and the numbers that I've given them. Obviously, the weighting will be different. So even though it says a 1, it might be really, really low for you, really high for me, or vice versa. And then if we have a look at the computer scores, you can see for me, Morgen is at the top, then Todoist, then Akiflow, then TickTick, which as I spend most of my time on the computer, it does kind of make sense that Morgen is number 1. But when we look at the overall scores, we've got Akiflow at the top, then Todoist, then Morgen, then TickTick. But averages are pretty much useless. You need to look at the specifics. So one of those features may be huge for you and mean nothing for me, or vice versa. For example, calendar sets is massive for me, but that's only a 1-point swing in all of these average rankings. So actually have a look at the apps. Also bear in mind the date of me making the video, because updates will come out, things will change, and bear in mind that I don't use some of these apps, so there may be things that I've missed, and if I have missed something, leave them in the comment section below so I can pin it so everyone else can see what's going on and what I've missed.